It's winter, 1992. I invite my best friend from work to come over and help me bake Christmas cookies while we, do a little baking of our own. I live in a big old house with 4 roommates and a super cool working KISS pinball machine. And there is another shared house next door to us with 5 people living in it. And we all hang out together all the time. So, I'm in the kitchen baking, and roommates are coming home, and people are coming over from next door until there's about 7 or 8 of us there. We're drinking Earl Grey tea, we're smoking, we're having fun, when suddenly somebody says, "Holy shit, you guys, it's Dude Egg!" This sets off a flurry of talking and a chorus of, "Oh my God, how could we forget? How could we forget Dude Egg?" Unbelievably, we are such stoners that we have almost forgotten our own social group's main celebration of Christmas, which goes like this. On the first day of Dude Egg, December 22nd, we all get together and do psychedelics. LSD traditionally, but any psychedelic will do. We spend the night tripping out and running around chasing one another with plastic disky guns that most of the gang have souped up so that they fire far more shots at a far greater velocity than they were ever originally intended to. It's a miracle that we all still have both eyes. Usually, Star Wars is playing on a small television set on repeat with the sound for it plugged into our guitar amp at a very loud volume so that you can hear it throughout the entire house. On the second day of Dude Egg, December 23rd, we all drink alcohol all day, usually while wearing Hawaiian shirts. We keep cranked and all of the burners on the stove on high with pots of boiling water on them so that the house is humid and warm so we can kind of fool ourselves into thinking it's summer. Then on the third day of Dude Egg, December 24th, we wake and bake and we just smoke and smoke and smoke and smoke. It's a marathon of drug-induced bonding. Why is it called Dude Egg, you ask? There is a long story, but in short, because drugs. And why is this our Christmas celebration specifically? It's so that on December 25th, when we are all sitting in our respective parents' living rooms, we just don't care. But today is the 23rd. We have no booze and no money for booze, but the kitchen is super warm due to the baking, and we've got some pot, because we always do, but it's just not entirely in the spirit of Dude Egg. So one of the roommates says he thinks he has some old mushrooms kicking around. They're probably not very strong anymore, but he'd see what he could find. We all know what to do. We scatter and search. And when we reconvene in the kitchen, we throw everything that we found into our giant 24-cup teapot, fill it with boiling water, and wait. Eventually, we all make a toast to Dude Egg and gulp down full coffee mugs of lukewarm mushroom tea. And nothing happens. I keep baking, we chat, we make Earl Grey tea, we hang out, and a long, long while later, I suddenly find myself in a very fast-moving tunnel of rainbow light. I decide that perhaps I need to have a seat, and then actually maybe I need to have a little stretch, and perhaps in fact I should probably lie down. And the next thing I know, I wake up on the floor with my face covered in blood and everyone hovering over top of me. At this very moment, another roommate returns home and decides wisely that I need to go to the hospital right now. She somehow gets me into a car, and all of the rest of my whacked-out friends decide that they'll walk down to the hospital together and be with me for moral support. In the meantime, my friend from work has come over, and she has found our front door wide open, all of the lights on, music playing, the oven on, batches of cookies on the counter, still warm mugs of Earl Grey tea, a shattered bowl and cookie dough on the floor, a knocked over chair, a very large pool of blood with footprints through it in the kitchen, and no one home in either of the 2 houses. She just stands there in her coat for a long time, not quite knowing what to do. When my last roommate finally makes it home, he finds her still standing there in her coat, not quite knowing what to do. She explains what she's found to him, and they just stand side by side for a while until eventually he turns to her and says, "I guess this is what it must have been like to find the Marie Celeste." My motley crew makes it home after the hospital has eventually shaved half of my hair and put 17 stitches into my head without any painkillers, while one of my tribe holds my head steady and describes each stitch to me as if it was embroidery. My friend from work tucks me into bed. Apparently, I told her it was all gonna be okay because a squirrel had come to take away my pain.
When I was 8, I got a new sister, moved schools, moved swim teams, and moved houses. Looking back, this all sounds very exciting and eerily like graduating university, minus the baby. But at the time, you could say I didn't handle the changes well. We moved in the summer, which was all well and good, except I didn't know anyone in our new neighborhood, and a new baby is only so interesting. Also, wallowing in my own bad luck only took up 10.5 of my 14 waking hours, so I clearly needed some friends. So the week before school started, in an attempt to help me make friends, my mother invited the backdoor neighbors, Brenna and Brianna, over to play. Now we don't have time to go into why they were named the same thing but different. So instead, I'll tell you a little bit about them. Brianna was 13 and definitely cooler than anyone I had met before. She wore low-rise jeans with a spiked belt and a skin-tight crop top, all of which were clothing items I previously did not know existed. Brenna was 9 and on track to be as cool or cooler than Brianna. She listened to Green Day and had a bit of a bad attitude. Now that you've met them, I should introduce you to my former self. I was just hitting my 8-year-old awkward phase and had recently decided that a top-of-the-ear length bowl cut was going to be the next big haircut. But I also refused to wear a swimming cap, so the summer combination of chlorine and sunshine meant that my beautiful ear-length hair was the color and consistency of chewed-up straw. Add in the massive goggle tan lines, the 20 pounds of lingering baby fat, and the fact that I exclusively wore Crocs sandals, you could say I was only slightly behind Brenna on the track to popularity. With the introductions out of the way, my mom left us home alone with Brianna in charge. Later I'd find out that she had been hired to babysit and had dragged Brenna along in case I was too weird. Virtually the moment my mom left, Brenna asked if we wanted to play Truth or Dare. Not wanting to seem uncool, especially before we start grade 4 together, I said, yeah, sure, I played that all the time at my old school, having never played the game before. As Truth or Dare typically goes, it started out innocently enough with a few dares to ding-dong ditch the neighbors and a couple truths about whether or not we still picked our nose, of course lying and saying that we didn't. But Brenna was cool, so she wasn't going to lowball the dares for much longer. The next thing I know, "I dare you to chop off a chunk of your hair," is hurled at me. I paused. There's no way I could cut off my beautiful ear-length hair. But Brenna was so cool, and if I showed her that I was cool too, then maybe at school I would have one friend to sit with at lunch, and when I had one friend, I could have another friend, and then before you know it, I would be the most popular person at the new school. But my mom would totally notice the missing hair, and she would kill me faster than Trump tweets anything. Although, if I cut my hair over the toilet, then there'd be no evidence. This could work, especially if I was careful to only cut a bottom layer from the very, very back of my head. Okay, I could do this. I've got a foolproof, airtight plan, and shortly I'll be in Brenna's good books. So I grabbed a pair of kitchen scissors and very, very carefully cut off a 3-inch chunk of hair right in front of my eyes. Perfect. Mom would never know. I looked at Brenna and she seemed marginally impressed, so I was definitely good to go on the friendship front. My mom gets home and doesn't seem to notice anything amiss. She thanks Brianna and Brenna and sends them on their way back home, and I feel like the queen of the world. I got away with Truth or Dare, and now I have a cool friend, and I'm not in trouble. This must be the best day of my life. The front door closes, and my mom turns to me with thunder in her eyes and lightning in her voice. What did you do to your hair? I panicked and did what most children do. I lied. We were playing Truth or Dare, and Brenna dared me to cut off a chunk of my hair, but I know better than that, so I said, no, I won't do that. But then she said that I had to, and then she chased me around the house with scissors until I agreed to do it. Obviously, my mother saw right through that and wisely said, okay, I'm going to go call Brenna's mom and tell her what she did, and then Brenna's going to get in trouble. Is that okay with you? My eyes glazed over, the blood drained from my face, and my heart fell down to my feet. Now I was truly in a hairy situation. If I got Brenna in trouble, our friendship would be at a split ends, and I surely wouldn't have any friends at the new school. My heart beating faster and faster, I cast my eyes down and said, no, Mom, I did it. Don't call Brenna's mom. I should be the one who's in trouble. 2 weeks of grounding, a horrible school picture, the nickname My Hair Lady, and a friend to sit with at lunch later, I had learned my lesson about Truth or Dare. Not that that stopped me from pulling out my own tooth a year later in the 5th grade, but that's a story for another day.
I have arrived, barely 20 years old, it's 2 a.m., I am in Greece. Being a Greek and Roman studies major meant I had to go to Greece. Not Rome, fuck Rome. I'm a Hellenist. Pretty sure those Romans just stole everything from the Greeks anyways. So I'm all prepared, got my backpack, my Lonely Planet guide, and a stellar understanding of the ancient Greek language. I'm sure some of that will translate, right? And at first everything was going smoothly, at least while I was standing still. My first attempt to get on the train and leave the city might have resulted with me getting on a train going in the wrong direction. The ticket person did catch it quickly enough though. We were only a few minutes down the tracks before the train came to a screeching and sudden halt to have me be unceremoniously thrown off with my pack and my Lonely Planet guide to walk back along the tracks, back to the train station. Only mildly humiliating. And that was just the first of a few transportation mishaps along the way. As I traveled further from the city centers, I had a harder time getting around. It was the off-season, after all, you know, I'm on a budget. So as I traveled into these smaller towns, I found that I couldn't even find public transit options to get to that really remote site that I just had to go to, because visiting remote sites was a requirement to backpacking that just must not be ignored. So no bus, no problem. I'll just rent a scooter to drive over that mountain pass with the switchback hairpin turns. Not that I've ever driven one before. There were only 1 or 2 times that I might have skidded out, lost control in the gravel, and ended up with my scooter, myself, and all my belongings scattered across the highway. Of course, my young backpacker brain was more concerned about the fact that I ripped and bloodied my only pair of pants. Hope that washes out, as I contemplate how I nearly went over a cliff edge. Oh well. So now getting to these remote sites meant being in remote towns, some of which only had 1 bus going through them a day. Which of course I managed to miss. Who knows how. The bus stop being out of town and on the side of the road was a bit of a pain. Gonna have to trudge all the way back to town. Or I could just do this thing. There's this truck coming and maybe I could just stick out my thumb and see what happens. Lo and behold, it turns out people stop for a young Canadian girl with a backpack and braids in her hair. It's just shocking. It's not nearly as intimidating as I thought I was. A few uneventful rides from truckers later, and I was getting off a ferry, decided to save the time and money on the bus and hitch into town. Just 20 minutes down the highway. Everyone must be going there from the ferry. Moments later, I hop into this itty-bitty little red car as man waves me in. And we're heading down the highway, and my driver is trying to talk to me. Now, after 3 weeks in the country, I have recognized that my ancient Greek isn't really working for me. I don't have a lot of conversational ability. But I have figured out how to say I'm going to the bus station. So I smile, say my words, I'm going to the bus station. This friendly man smiles, nods, Keeps reaching over and touching my leg, smiling and nodding and talking, and just kept talking and talking, and I'm like, no idea what you're saying, dude, just, you know, could I get to the bus station? That would be cool. Thank you. I knew thank you. So after a few more leg touches and arm touches that were starting to feel a bit like groping, trying to figure out how far away I can get away from this man in this little itty bitty car. And I suddenly noticed that we're turning off the highway. Like, town, right over there, bus station, right over there. And as I'm going back to the city, he smiles, shakes his head, and just keeps talking and talking and trying to touch. Just like, okay, where are we going? What are we doing? As the car winds down narrow side streets, I'm slipping into full panic mode. Maybe there's a stop sign coming up. Should I jump out and run? What are you supposed to do in this situation? This car's too small. My backpack's in the back seat, out of reach. Where the fuck are we going anyways, and what is this guy doing? So as the car winds further and further away from the main roads, I sit there frozen in terror, thinking about all the reasons why a man might want to kidnap a silly hitchhiking Canadian girl like me. I don't know if it was 5 minutes or 5 hours later. It felt like an eternity. And then the car stops. We're in a driveway. My driver's exited the vehicle. Do I lock the doors and stay here? Do I grab my bag and run? I don't even know where I am. What am I supposed to do? Where would I run to? So I get out of the car and just kind of stand there like an idiot. And some people come out of the house. Surround me, they're talking animatedly around me. And this woman walks up to me and with the warmest, friendliest smile says, "My brother would like to know which hotel you're going to. The bus station is in a very dangerous part of town and would not like to drop you off there." Really? What did you just say? She had to repeat herself a few more times before I could manage to choke back the tears of relief, while thinking over and over again that I will never hitchhike again. Thank you.